thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
It's a weird hill to die on.
It's such a banger. such a banger. Oh, yeah. Good morning, you guys. It is Monday, September 16th, and today is National Guacamole Day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's also
Everybody loves some guac.
It's also National Working Parents Day, so you guys should all give yourselves a round of applause over there.
Shout out to everybody, but
It's also National StepFamily Day.
Yeah, shout out to stepbrothers and stepsisters out there, and not just the ones on internet porn.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Play-Doh Day.
Who was going to get them out of the dryer, though, Rico?
National Cinnamon Raisin Bread Day.
Actually, I had some fond memories of cinnamon raisin bread. Raisin bread from my grandmother. Huh? My grandmother always kept that shit on deck, man. Make it in toast, put some butter on it. Shout out to Grandma Alma, Abuelita.
Yep, and it's also Gretchen's Day because it's also Mayflower Day today, you guys.
Yeah.
Remember Gretchen?
Yeah. remember the moderates.
Oh boy.
Gretchen came over on the Mayflower.
Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to anyone joining us from any one of those platforms. Kicking it off today, that's right, we got the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, who rocking the Happy Monkey ball cap today, who are celebrating their grand opening just an hour ago over there in the great city of New York. That's right, it is the dope dad. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Yes, sir, Jason. I had a chance to travel up north from, I was out in Virginia on Friday. I had a chance to travel up north and see my brothers for the unofficial opening on Saturday. The store looks great, and it's always good to see folks doing it for, the culture and not for the clout. Big shout out to Ramon. Big shout out to Vlad, David, the whole crew out there. You guys are doing it big. Really, really proud of.
Yes, congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Yes, congrats. So, in my story, man, today, Jason, is a bit of a cautionary tale for cannabis
That's how
investors.
you're going to frame it? That's how you're going to frame it, huh?
It's cautionary tale, man.
Cautionary.
For all those investors.
Did you bring the caution tape? Did you bring the caution tape?
Yeah, I'm wearing my caution tape shirt on today.
I see. It's yellow.
Be very cautionary. But coming from John Schroyer over at Green Market Report, Schroyer referenced new data collected in a recent ATB Capital Markets survey, revealing that investor confidence in cannabis industry remains low, and that only 31.8% of U.S. investors, 39% of Canadian investors are currently optimistic about the sector. The new drop in confidence is attributed to major systemic issues in the world's two top markets, federal reform in the United States and failed tax reform in Canada. The survey highlights that significant changes such as uplistings to major stock exchanges or federal rescheduling of cannabis are needed to boost investor interest. Uplistings could encourage 59% of investors to invest more, while rescheduling might attract another 32%. While it seems that Florida's ballot initiative is sucking up all the oxygen in the room right now, the Safer Banking Act, Jason,
Yeah,
which would provide substantial financial benefits to the industry, is viewed as more crucial by investors than Florida's potential legalization. And despite the current pessimism, the survey did reveal some hopeful signs, particularly with expectations that U.S. cannabis rescheduling could happen in the first half of next year. Rescheduling is now also bolstered by former President Trump's rhetorical support, a surprise about face agreement, echoing the previous sentiments of Kamala Harris and current President Joe Biden, who spearheaded the movement with the HHS and DEA in 2023. If rescheduled to Schedule 3, many investors believe that it would significantly boost MSO stock prices. Hooray, MSOs. In Canada, investor sentiment is worsened due to unmet expectations for tax reform and ongoing market challenges. However, certain companies such as Sundial Incorporated are seen as promising investments despite the sector's overall struggles. So, investors are saying that they don't believe none of this shit, and they are still very bearish on cannabis overall. However, the little bit of a silver lining on the cloud is rescheduling. Now that Donald Trump has come around, much to the chagrin of his Republican pals, they think it might happen. So I don't know. I'm going to keep on saying the same thing I have before. I'll believe it when I see it. Doesn't matter if it's Republican or a Democrat. They don't care. And when they start to care is when the money starts rolling in. Follow the money. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. What's the rest of the team think about this?
Meanwhile, all the cannabis investors are investing in beverages.
No boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise. I mean, cannabis, the industry is a bloodbath of a state, so no wonder the investor sentiment is down. I mean, you have
no wonder the investors are not super stoked to jump back into something that y'all lied to them 87 times with your little nice performas that were, you duped them and pulled them out like the Wicked Witch of the West and gave them all these fake numbers, $1 million hopes and dreams, and they could have just set that money on fire in the backyard and had a better time with the family. Toasted some marshmallows on it.
Are you saying people lie on their hypotheticals? And
No, never. No, never.
And on the financial statement?
No.
Are you saying that they're called hypotheticals instead of prospectuses, Rico?
That would be
no, he's saying they're called
no one would do that
instead of hypotheticals.
Oh, is that God?
Well,
where's that voice from?
That's the man.
That's coming from the Shire. Somebody has a ring on, and they've become invisible.
No. It's the man. It's the man that's too short to sit at the desk. You can't see him.
Oh man, blow the whistle.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I mean, I'm not surprised at this. We do need some safe banking to help, and you know, until there is something that actually is done, I don't see a lot of investors wanting to invest in the space overall. There are some hard money lenders that I'm aware of and whatnot. So if you are looking for money, there is something I can probably possibly help you with, but
it ain't cheap, but it
Not
is
that
there.
one.
Good things aren't cheap, and cheap things aren't good, Rico.
Well,
you can have
here's
cheap, you can
the
have
thing,
fast,
a lot of
you can have
cannabis
good.
money isn't good. There's a lot of investment that's not good, and people who are snaky and people who listen. I'm not going to introduce anybody to somebody who I haven't personally done good business with at this point because it's so sketchy. And safe banking is only going to change the fact that we can now go to traditional lenders who have federal funds invested in them.
I'm good with traditional.
So that's not going to, safe banking is not going to change the forecast for the people who've had their asses handed to them because you guys have handed them these shitty deals. You've listed them on decks and not actually listed them as ownership percentages. You've done all these little straw purchase deals that's resulted in a lot of people throwing a lot of lawsuits. And it's very unfortunate when those happen. So I think it's just about when we have a more concrete industry and we have people who are actually seeing some returns on their investment because they're not sinking them into idiots, then maybe we'll see people a little more excited to throw their money into cannabis.
Are you saying banking is safe?
No.
Banking is safe. That's when it's
No.
safe banking.
Also, no. I don't know if you've ever had your accounts shut down and had them hold your merchant services account for 180 days and give you a portion of it back. Nothing's safe. Good morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like to see cannabis continuing to resist the scale up and the MSOs and the typical corporate vulture capitalism. I think what we keep seeing is, for the most part, you have to have a smaller operation and organization in order to put off super high quality cannabis.
Matthew, did you get a new camera?
Oh, sir. Why is that?
You're looking extra crisp today, bro.
Oh, thank you so much, Brother Jason. Maybe it's that I my hair myself.
Maybe
The
you
drugs
just been,
wore off.
Maybe you just been out in the sun getting some, you know what I'm saying, color.
He's
I
actually
have as well. I bought a
broadcasting
bicycle.
That's it.
He's broadcasting from a familiar dimension today, Jason.
Oh boy.
You look pretty clear today. Check me out.
Yeah,
Wow.
look at yourself, bro.
I'm St. Germain here. Like, nicely done.
Looking rather clear, like you just got off the Scientology kick.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yarrow, are you there? Are you there underneath the desk?
Yeah, no, I'm underneath the desk. I'm like that dog that's at the feet of everybody. I mean, these articles are always interesting to me because I don't think there's a single cannabis industry. I don't think that the broad strokes is ever enough for our viewership. Are we talking about opportunities in Germany now that they have homegrown? Because if I had seeds and I was DTC in Germany, I would be like, oh yeah. Are we talking about patented medical innovations and somebody who's figured out how to take THCV out of little belching algae? I'd be like, oh yeah. Are we talking about cannabis real estate? Are we talking about those unsecured investments for equity? I mean, we've had multiple cannabis corrections already, including a post, I used to call it Cannabis 2.0, which was post-frothy Canadian-inspired valuations. And so, yes, I think until we have tax reform, we will continue to see lackluster enthusiasm for the space. But I also think that some of the investors who initially came into cannabis thought they were going to exit in 24 months and that they were going to have 10 million % returns because this and that was a tech play and somebody was creating a marketplace and they added blockchain into their deck. And so I do think that some of the investors who came into the space didn't have a 5 to 7 year holding period as built into their thesis. And so those investors may not represent the best long-term category of investors for the space anyway. I don't want the guy who's breathing down my neck to try to create some extraordinary return that's not going to really work unless I cut corners or look the other way. And so some of those investors probably weren't that great for the space. And then the other thing I think about this article is like some of these investors have had to shore up investments that were initially too frothy in terms of valuations or what they got for what they gave. And so those people are still just kind of bailing water and likely adding more money to just keep those investments viable for a longer term hold. So I don't know. I still think that cannabis provides opportunity. I just don't think it's for the faint of heart. I don't think it's for the unrealistic. And I don't think it's one industry. I just don't. Look at how many seeds, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of seeds were sold just in Germany last year. And then tell me this is just a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath for the uninformed. It's a bloodbath for somebody who just wants to park their money and not pay attention. And it's a bloodbath for people who get into business with the wrong individuals.
And who wants to take a bath in blood anyways?
Vampires.
If you add a CBD bath bomb, I am willing to bathe in anything.
Oh man, you know what? On that, we're
B is for blood.
Yeah, we're gonna go into a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out...
Yeah, we are back like we left something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
a cat or a dog. We can be our
MSG got me off my game with that one.
They're eating the cats,
it's not
bro.
about MSG. It's about our next correspondent. He's the head honcho.
JRB.
Head honcho at High at 9 News. Thank God he wasn't out there at Mar-a-Lago popping up. Shit.
That's right.
This weekend,
Right.
He's here with us. He's alive. He's here to deliver the next story as the highest Republican in this room, Jason Beck.
I have a knock joke for you, Rico.
I don't answer no doors.
You don't answer doors? All right. Fair enough. But
knock. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Jason. I'll play ball. I'll play ball.
All right. Knock.
Who's there?
Owen.
Owen. Who?
Owen 2.
It only makes sense if the Trump and Kamala heads are in the back and forth on the knock joke. Otherwise, you have to explain it, and that ruins it.
No, nothing makes sense coming from Jason, so it's all good.
He got it.
He got excited.
He got it. Anyways, you guys, Washington, D.C., you guys. Apparently, they only have one marijuana inspector, you guys. That's right. The district only has one marijuana inspector to police the entire Wild West of weed in the nation's capital. Why this matters? Well, industry operators say D.C. needs more manpower to crack down on unlicensed I-71 weed shops and oversee the growing legal medical dispensary market. The Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration, the ABCA, Soul's marijuana inspector Jason Peru is tasked with performing regular inspections of the nearly dozen medical marijuana dispensaries in D.C. He ensures their inventory is up to standard and that proper security measures are in place. In addition, he responds for investigating more than 100 I-71 shops, signing cease and desist orders, and attending hearings. Well, we were all surprised recently when we found out there was just one inspector, says Linda Mercado Green, the owner of medical marijuana dispensary Anacostia Organics. Green and other medical marijuana shop owners want the district government to begin shutting down I-71 shops, and the ABCA had told medical dispensary operators that it was expecting to post job descriptions for 2 new inspectors, according to Grace Hyde, a director at family-owned dispensary District Cannabis. But ABCA told them that the postings are stuck at DC HR, awaiting final approval, Hyde says. In a quote, "It's the epitome of slow bureaucratic government," Hyde says. The other side of this, though, is the ABCA didn't say when they plan to hire additional staff, and DCHR said it is collaborating with ABCA on a potential future hiring and will post positions once finalized. ABCA tells Axios that the next fiscal year's budget funds an enforcement team of 1 supervisory investigator overseeing 3 investigators, and in addition, 1 compliance analysis and 2 compliance auditors are supposed to be dedicated to medical marijuana businesses. The agency says it in quotes, has sufficient resources to implement a new law that took effect on July 15th, giving cannabis regulators increased enforcement authority. And since Congress blocks D.C. from legalizing the sale of adult-use marijuana, I-71 shops have opened and operate under a loophole in the law, offering customers a cheaper product with no medical form needed. D.C. is asking these unlicensed gifting shops to get legally permitted by applying for medical marijuana licenses or be forced to shut down. And so far, ABCA has inspected more than 120 suspected illegal businesses and issued 79 written warnings, 23 cease and desist orders, and 1 summary closure notice. Sourced from the spokesperson Mary McNamara wrote in an email to Axios, you guys. Well, D.C. sounds like it's about to be the next New York. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
1 inspector, they're having a field day.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Yeah, can't really add much to this story that wasn't said last week when we talked about DC. Like it would help a lot, if they were allowed to do things and operate like a state, but they're not.
They shouldn't be allowed to operate like a state. They're not a state. They're a territory.
I won't dig into that today because I don't want to go back and forth with why they're a state and why they're not a state. But
because they never were made one.
You know what? If they were able,
because they were never made one in the first place.
I'm not going to go back and forth with you on that, Jason. Like I said,
that's fine. But, I'm just going to win. I take that as a concedence.
Let me finish my point. Mm-hmm. If they had the ability to operate like others, they would maybe operate like others and not operate with one inspector like they are right now. The best with what they can. And it is what it is. It's going to have to be what it is.
I mean, how big is DC anyway? It's about 10 by 10 blocks or something, right?
Yeah, it's not big. It's not that big.
How many parking enforcement authorities do they have? Officers, I mean.
They have a lot of parking enforcement.
I bet they do.
Yeah, lots of it.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the parking enforcement can kind of moonlight as
it's easier to write tickets than it is to plow through the thickets. I mean, I think you need a little bit more training and qualifications to be able to enforce against.
I mean, really, Yarrow, I'm not buying that. All you got to do is just walk into these places and see that they're selling these illicit products. I mean, it's not hard for a trained eye to tell.
Jesus Christ, are you a cop now, Jason?
Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and say if they've already shut down a shop, right? They're doing more with one person than New York's done with the entire fucking NYPD, right? So
fair enough.
And I agree with Jason a little bit. It's not that hard to see a California warning on a product sitting in the district of Columbus.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to say that unlike my socialist friend Jason Beck, I believe in the free market and think people should just be able to sell weed without getting tickets.
I'm gonna start calling.
I'd rather be blowing out basements again too, Mathieu St. Germain, but we're not. So let's figure out how to make this work as a regulated system.
I just want to keep finding ways to refer to you guys as my socialist friends.
Yeah, we're not socialists.
As long as you call us your friends, Mathieu,
Mm-hmm.
that's all that matters.
Love you.
As long as you allow
you can call us your SoCal friends though. That's as close as you're gonna get to that.
SoCal.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Inspector.
The parallels with New York there are too many of them with this article, right? I mean, you've got New York, which has this workaround system that's not a great workaround. They don't have adult use. They're putting their singular person into enforcement actions. You read off the statistics of the number of tickets written. Mm-hmm. We already know from New York, you can fine for $1 billion and you'll collect about $10.
Yep,
so all of that is just a big waste of time and taxpayer money. And you Washingtonians, or whatever we call these DC
Washingtonians,
they deserve to be able to access low cost, easily accessible, clean, safe cannabis. It may not be a human right, but it's right below that. And why they wouldn't just stand up, and maybe it is, I don't know. I need St. Germain for my moral North Star. But at a minimum, the notion that they're going to enforce their way out of this incomplete system that doesn't stand up adult use is just more craziness. And why do it that way? That doesn't need to be done that way. So it's really sad. It's like, do you need one enforcement person or two? It's irrelevant until you have policy that prioritizes safety, quality, age restricted, and an industry that looks like a regular CPG industry for those urban people who want to stop by and grab a fucking hash hole. And until they have that, all of it's just going to be some bullshit Band-Aid workaround.
Yarrow, they do have a lot of low cost weed out there because there's a whole bunch of boof out there sitting on those shelves.
Anyhow, I mean, it's not just like it's a DC, New York situation. The same thing happened in Colorado when it was medical only. The gifting platform. Yeah, fuck it did. They had all of these.
Not like this. Not like this.
No, you're gonna let me fit. You don't know what you're talking about. So why don't you stop and sit down for a moment?
Go for it.
I know you're low enough, but sit.
Go for it.
All right. Good boy. Thank you.
Well,
just sits
with all that fucking.
I meant Jenny said Jason's standing at his desk.
Oh, God damn it. Get him down. All right. So Colorado had the same thing. They still had it. Even in Colorado Springs, which did not go adult use when the rest of the state of Colorado went adult use, right? They still had these places that were collectives that where you come in and you buy a $30 bag of chips and all of a sudden you got an eighth too, right? And so that's kind of, it's not a new thing. It's not these cannabis churches, stuff like that. These things happen, and that's what it is when they're taking advantage of the gifting program, right? So that's That's not a new thing. It's not a New York thing. It's not a special workaround that DC and New York came up with. This happened, and it happened at a pretty large scale in Colorado. And as you started to implement adult use, these places started to get raided and shut down. Why don't you ask the One Love Club out of Colorado Springs? But anyhow, Jason knows more than everyone, so let's let him talk.
You're
you
so
don't,
right about
but it's
that.
fun. It's fun to play like that.
You're 100% right about that
It's
last
back to
statement,
back.
Jenny.
Did you get your seat back?
I got all my seats, girl. Tons of seats.
Jenny, I don't know.
Take several of them.
I don't know how you got the monopoly in condescending commentary, but you are on a roll, my friend.
It's just
Thank
it's the
you.
Diet Coke. It's the Diet
Because
Coke.
as a girl in the boys club for this long, you got to get good at rolling with and doling out punches.
Oh, I see. So it's the difference in anatomy that justifies the anonymity. I can't even.
Yarrow.
Yeah, I can go behind my desk and cry, or I can fight back, and I'm not.
Yarrow, just vote Trump, bro. We'll get all the women quieted down here by the end of the year.
Yeah.
The patriarchy
man.
great again.
You're
Sorry,
funny.
Jenny, but just get back to the kitchen.
You know what? Yes, that's speaking of which, we're gonna get Jenny cooking right now, because coming up next, that's right, it's Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She has that southern twang that's here to tell you a thing or two all about you, yourself, and what's happening in the cannabis space. That's right. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and just to serve a 501c3. That's right. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Yeah.
Coming live from the kitchen.
And I am a great cook also. And I'll post a picture of the duck breast I'm making for dinner tonight, but you guys enjoy.
I love
I'm
it.
gonna bow out of this chauvinist environment. I am very triggered right now.
We
And I'm
bet.
gonna
Thank
go
you,
back-
Rico.
I'm
Love you,
gonna go
Rico.
back and,
Much
I
love,
love you
Rico.
all.
You have a great day, buddy.
Later, Rico.
All right, so we're going to take it over to Poland, because Poland's Ministry of Health has recently tightened regulations surrounding medical cannabis prescriptions, now mandating in-person consultations and eliminating teleconsultations. This significant change aims to prevent abuse within the prescription system and impacts patients who rely on cannabis-based therapies. The shift comes in response to concerns about teleconsultation abuse, particularly regarding substances like opioids. Health Minister Isabella Lessing, I can't pronounce that, noted that while cannabis wasn't initially included in these new measures, public consultations led to its inclusion as a substance requiring in-person visits. While the intention behind the regulation is to enhance patient safety and ensure the integrity of prescriptions, it poses new challenges for many patients. Those suffering from chronic conditions who previously benefited from the convenience of telemedicine now find it difficult to secure in-person appointments. This is especially true for individuals with limited mobility or those living in remote areas with few specialists available. Moreover, these increased access restrictions could unintentionally push some patients towards the illicit cannabis market, as obtaining legal prescriptions becomes more complicated. This shift not only raises safety concerns due to unregulated products, but also threatens to undermine the progress Poland has made in its medical cannabis program by potentially increasing illegal trade. While the Ministry of Health aims to safeguard patients, the new regulations may inadvertently create barriers that compromise access and safety for those who need medical cannabis the most. That is the portion that makes me think that this is a sad story. Unfortunately, you guys are all familiar with the saying, the bad apple spoils the bunch. Abuse of these systems, we need to be a little more cognizant of them, because there are people at home who are homebound who need access to medicine. And it's really sad to me that abuse by some has led to more restrictions for access for others. So I'll throw it back to you guys. I think we're probably all going to agree on this pretty heavily, but also medical professionals need to actually know how to prescribe cannabis and be able to give kind of the same kind of care. And you should be able to do that in a virtual sense if it's not being taken advantage of. So I will throw it back to you guys and see what you think.
Poland.
Poland.
Yeah. So they're cracking down on these doctors.
Yeah, they were taking advantage of the telemedicine portion where, you put your information in, 15 minutes later, somebody calls and says, "Hey, how are you? Your back hurts? Check. Here you go."
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think telemedicine is fantastic.
Telemedicine is fantastic, but they also mentioned opioid prescriptions and things like that. And you notice a lot of these pill mill doctors have switched over to writing cannabis recs. And I think that we need to just be a little bit more reverent. And it's not just a revenue generation for a medical provider who has taken an oath, who should be concerned with patient safety and it sucks that the abuse of this system is now affecting those who were granted greater access if they're homebound or whatever their issue may be.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
I mean, here's the bottom line, right? Cannabis wants to be treated like anything else, right? It's the redheaded stepchild that says, please, can I just be not treated like the redheaded stepchild? And so if there were crackdowns across the board on telemedicine in Poland simultaneously, that would be one thing. But unless you have a physical examination, telemedicine is here to stay. And to Jenny's point with the article, it's also something that serves a service. It's a tool for those that are distant or rural or can't get in or the schlep to get to a doctor's office. And so the argument that should be cracked down because there's some people that are abusing the system is sort of like the Republicans saying that welfare shouldn't be around because there's a couple of people who are abusing the system, right? It should never be the system and the few people that abuse it that are the justification for eliminating a system that might serve more than it harms. I just don't understand where, if we acknowledge that medical cannabis can be for a variety of ailments, from insomnia to carpal tunnel syndrome and pain relief, why we wouldn't give people the easiest opportunity to get that prescription. And so to me, it's all blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there may be some doctors who also wrote other prescriptions in a way that was less than prudent, but that doesn't have anything to do with patient access in my mind.
Well, unfortunately, I think this all kicked off, what the article said, was with opioid prescriptions of more common drugs that are abused, right? So cannabis wasn't initially mentioned in the crackdown on telemedicine, but then it was brought up by some, probably NIMBY, thinking of the children, who during the public comment period said that cannabis should be also considered that way.
It's just unfair, because if we were going to avoid, with a few rotten apples ruining the barrel, I mean, if we were going to take that approach, we wouldn't even let you on this show.
Oh, man, shots fired.
Who, me or you, Yarrow?
You started it off.
Shots fired.
Pre-recording,
wow.
Shots fired.
Pew, pew, pew.
Come at me.
Yeah.
Come at me.
Yarrow.
Yeah.
You don't want me to do that in public, Yarrow. It'll be okay.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez, you guys. I mean, I do find it interesting how they really started the enforcement on the opioid paper mill style thing, and then how all of a sudden it's just so easy for them just to lump cannabis in with that and just like use cannabis as the scapegoat. And so
it's the stigma 3.0.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I thought you're right, Jenny. We did all agree on that. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back. The Network Show is coming back to LA September 18th and 19th. Make sure to get your tickets now for the only B2B licensed flower trade show in LA. With its previous shows selling out, you'll want to act fast so you don't miss out on over 150 of the best brands and distributors throughout California. The Network Show captures and ensures an intimate, focused environment for California's most influential brands and retailers to join forces in the true spirit of the legacy operator. So head over to www.networkshow.co/ticketing to reserve your spot and start cultivating connections at this year's Network Show. All right. Whatever you're doing, make sure you smash that like button. I know you'll appreciate it, we'll appreciate it, and you too will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And make sure to mark your calendars for Friday, October 18th. We're going to do some overtime immediately following the show. We're going to have some doctors and some researchers on from Abstracts. They're going to be discussing their new science and whatnot, and you guys are definitely going to want to tune in, and they will be doing a live Q&A as well. I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi. Yes, and we are back. Coming up next, that's right. It's the man who is just a little taller than Yarrow, but he is immortal, living longer and stronger than Yarrow ever could hope to be. That's right, it is the immortal Count himself, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain.
See how it works, Yarrow?
Thank you, Brother Jason.
Yes, sir.
More good news about mushrooms. Millions of depressed Americans could benefit from psychedelic therapy, study finds. Wake of mounting evidence for the efficacy of psychedelic-assisted therapies, the FDA is considering approving psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms for treating depression. As this watershed moment approaches, a critical question arises. Just how many people might stand to benefit from promising but still unproven therapy? Shedding light on this high-stakes inquiry, a first-of-its-kind study led by researchers at Emory University, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and UC Berkeley. He's published in Psychedelics and has generated initial estimates of the potential for psilocybin-assisted therapy for depression in the United States. The paper is titled An Estimate of the Number of People with Clinical Depression Eligible for Psilocybin-Assisted Therapy in the United States. Analyzing national survey data on depression prevalence and treatment in conjunction with eligibility criteria from recent landmark clinical trials, researchers determined that between 56% of patients currently receiving treatment for depression qualify for psilocybin therapy if approved. Our findings suggest that if the FDA gives the green light, this therapy has the potential to help millions of Americans who suffer from depression. This underscores the importance of understanding the practical realities of rolling out this novel treatment on a large scale. To arrive at their projections, the researchers first determined that of the nearly 15 million American adults with depression, about 9 million receive treatment in a year. Then evaluated this position against the various eligibility criteria, and what they found was lower bound of 24% of patients were eligible if the strict criteria of initial trials were applied. Mid-range of 56 based on criteria likely to be used in a real-world medical setting. And then it goes to 62% if you account for patients with multiple exclusionary conditions. Notably, nearly a third of the lower bound to mid-range jump resulted from the patients with alcohol substance use disorders, whom growing evidence suggests psilocybin may actually be beneficial rather than contraindicated. However, even the 62% upper bound estimate is likely conservative, as the analysis focused only on currently treated individuals and did not account for the potential influx of new patients drawn by the appeal of these psychedelic medicines. The researchers cautioned that these projections are highly contingent on the precise FDA approval parameters and subsequent real-world implementation factors. Insurance coverage decisions, we all love that. Availability of trained practitioners and regional variations in access could all considerably constrain the ultimate uptake of this therapy. Additionally, if approval encompasses off-label use for conditions beyond depression, demand could further surge. While our analysis is a crucial first step, we've only scratched the surface in understanding the true public health impact psilocybin therapy could have. Dr. Charles Raisin, collaborator on the study and the lead investigator on one of the largest clinical trials looking at the efficacy of this therapy for depression setting. Ultimately, realizable potential of this treatment rests in the hands of regulatory bodies, policymakers, insurers, and the healthcare community at large. It's our hope that these findings spur productive discussions and proactive preparations to optimize the benefits to patients while minimizing consequences. As the psychedelic renaissance continues to gather momentum, the study provides a vital glimpse into the promises and challenges that may lie ahead. Millions of lives potentially in the balance, it underscores the urgency of further research to refine demand estimates for equitable effective delivery of therapy should it gain. I think this is just great news. And, the number one thing I would say is, as to all of this, psychedelics continue to prove themselves safe, non-toxic, and amazingly effective. Also, if we worked on the actual fascist capital corporate dystopia that we lived in, we might not all need drugs just to get along on the day. This is St. Germain on a beautiful Monday for the High at 9 News. Jump in, everybody.
So
I love it.
you just love it? That's it?
I do love it. I do. I mean, listen, I've been very vocal about the fact that I use psilocybin as well as LSD to help with my PTSD, anxiety, and everything when I was coming through that after years of domestic violence. So it was, as somebody who's had that help their lives, I love to see this. I love to hear positive news about it. And I think that that's awesome. So, yeah, I do just love it. Is that okay?
Yeah. Teach their own. Teach their own. Matthew, what are they basing this off of?
The radical success that they're having at every level with every psilocybin and mushroom trial, both in the United States and worldwide.
So this
was mostly a meta-analysis where they're looking at other studies, looking at the eligibility criteria as well as the outcome of.
Interesting. So it's not. This group isn't actually doing any studies or talking about doing.
It's a meta-analysis.
Just...
They're doing a study of studies. It's something that happens in the scientific and medical field quite a bit.
Got it.
Get generalized trends out.
Yeah, they're taking all the studies and doing like a comprehensive analysis of what all the data means when it all comes together.
It's like group art.
Yeah, it's cute. That's cute. I just can't. I don't know. I feel like with the previous stories from the last group that was really on the verge against some psychedelic research done, and they just totally botched that whole thing. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Oh, the Lycos trials aren't over, and yeah, they definitely dropped the ball and were a little culty and weird. Mm-hmm. But the FDA is deciding if they're going to ask for more information and or another round 3 study. So that's not over, and hopefully. It's a little bauble that serves as a warning sign to folks in this space to really dot their I's, cross their T's, be extra careful and cautious when they are doing these studies because of their level of stigmatization. Mm-hmm. Also, I'd like to just remind everybody, like, mushrooms grow from the ground. They're natural. They are good for most people, provided you're not a schizophrenic and or completely suicidal. Even in those cases, oftentimes they tend to help people. And I think it's important that although the medical model is good for some, we continue to keep our eyes open and oriented to the fact that we also need a non-medical model wherein people don't have to pay to $15,000 per trip, don't have to be supervised by psychologists, don't have to get it okayed by their insurance company just to get connected to Life, the Universe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they have that right now. It's called the trap market.
And here's where I would disagree with Matthew. He said that mushrooms are natural. They are not natural. They are supernatural.
Oh boy.
And what I also appreciate is, like, to his point, like, we don't need to wait for the definitive study, the rollout of a quasi-functional medical system in a certain state, and we also don't need to depend upon very expensive programs which create barriers to entry for those that can't drop large monies. And that's why microdosing has become so popular in the last half decade, is because it gives people an opportunity to explore their own interactions with this plant. Mm-hmm. It's not a plant, sorry, my bad, a fungi. And to do it in a way that is de-risked, because they are starting small and building up, and it doesn't have to be a heroic dose in some unknown environment at a 3-day festival in 106-degree heat. And people are really, really wanting to see the science advance. Mm-hmm. My challenge is just, there's so many indicators. There's so many.
You're
into research. How quickly can we get to some?
You're entering a bad zone, Yarrow. You're getting all R2D2 on us. On that, we're gonna.
Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
I mean, and you got an echo. You got all kinds of audio issues going on today.
Yeah.
How far are you from your house?
Driveway.
All right.
Well,
Perfect.
good.
Well, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
All right, you guys. Well, we have just crossed the 4,000 subscriber threshold, and we want to thank all of you that have subscribed. But we need to do more. We need to get to 10,000 subscribers. And as a thank you to all of our subscribers, I am going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis. That's right, you guys. We are going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis to our subscribers. That's right. 8 of you will have the opportunity to receive 1 ounce of true classic OG if you are chosen. And if you're wondering how you can get your hands on one of these 8 ounces, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's right, High at 9 News on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell when you do. And you could be enjoying an ounce of cannabis right here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or maybe even right here in the studio with me. Make sure you hit that like button and share this post because it may increase or not increase your chances of winning. You must be 21 years old or over, or be a valid California patient, 18 years and over, with a valid recommendation to win. Winners must redeem their prize here in the state of California at any one of the 28 Catalyst retail locations throughout California. Cloud Media is not responsible for any consequences that may occur as a result of consuming cannabis. Please smoke and consume responsibly.
All right, you guys. I'm gonna go into my story while we wait on Yarrow to get his setup working right. And this is a follow-up story from Friday. I have some good news to share with you guys, because medical marijuana legalization and regulation are certified for Nebraska's November ballot. That's right. The ballot initiative to legalize and regulate medical marijuana in Nebraska has officially been certified for the November ballot in the face of local lawsuits and a statewide investigation into whether enough of the signatures were valid. Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Envin announced on Friday that the campaign from Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana officially garnered nearly 90,000 signatures as of Friday. It comes the same day that Envin must finalize the November 5th general election ballot, and 1 year to the date from when the signature gathering campaign kicked off its 3rd attempt in 2023. Envin said an ongoing investigation from Attorney General Mike Hilger's office has uncovered serious questions about the signature collection process for the petitions. At least one signature gatherer has been charged with a felony and, in quote, says, "I am certifying the petitions because at this point they appear to have met the threshold signature requirements." Envin said in a statement that that could change in light of the Attorney General's investigations, and both cannabis petitions will appear on the ballot, but a court could order later that initiatives be thrown out. Krista Eggers, who's the statewide campaign manager for the medical cannabis effort, thanked Hilgers and local officials for looking into any irregularities and working to protect the integrity of the public initiative process. And circulators are held to an extremely high standard and are required to strictly follow legal requirements for collecting signatures, Eggers said in an additional statement. Any circulators caught violating the law should be held accountable for their actions. And what the petitions do? Well, both 2024 petitions would define cannabis as all parts of the plant of the genius cannabis plant, including marijuana, hashish, and concentrated cannabis, but not hemp as defined in the state law.
One effort, the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Regulation Act, would legalize possessing, manufacturing, and distributing, delivering, and dispensing cannabis for medical purposes, and would create the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission to oversee the law. If enacted, the commission would need to establish criteria to accept or deny applications for registered cannabis establishments by July 1st of 2025, and by October 1st of 2025, it would need to begin granting such applications. The other petition, the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Patient Protection Act, would set an allowable amount of medical cannabis at 5 ounces and would exempt patients and caregivers from using or assisting someone else in using the cannabis, and would require a written recommendation from a health care practitioner as well as a legal guardian or parent in the case of a minor prior to its prescription, even though it's a recommendation, but whatever. Evden first announced that the campaign had surpassed the signature threshold to qualify for the ballot on August 30th, but had some signatures were still being counted statewide. And initiative petitioners require valid signatures from at least 7% of registered Nebraska voters, about 86,500, including at least 5% of voters in at least 38 of Nebraska's 93 counties. The campaign submitted more than 114,000 signatures in July for each of its 2 petitions, and Evden's office confirmed that nearly 90,000 signatures were validated for each petition, both exceeding the 5% signature threshold in 52 counties. And so this article goes on and on. There's a lot that this goes, but overall, this has been a follow-up story. We've been following this along, and I think this is fantastic news that this is going to be certified. It's going to go on the ballot, and then if the legal challenges take it off later down the road, then that's just how the cookie will crumble in Nebraska. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, at least they have an option to vote on it finally.
Yeah.
This is what, the third or fourth time that they've tried to get this ballot initiative actually on the ballot. So that's awesome.
That's right.
Welcome, Yarrow.
Oh, look at that. Look who decided to pop in today.
Well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking all that big shit from under the desk while he was biting my ankle. Now he's in here and he's a little more calm, a little more decorum.
Yeah, nobody's biting your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Just your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about this, Matthew? The people's
People still live in Nebraska, huh?
People do still live in Nebraska, bro. They got a pretty big...
Yeah, you know, all this ballot signature gathering stuff is always kind of, there's like an intersection of tomfoolery there, because usually the people who collect the signatures are free agents. They're not employees.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid on a per signature basis.
Yep.
Tend to fudge them, and I'd say a lot of times they're not really that rigorous about qualifying people.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen at local grocery store where I've had a petition signer be like, "Hey, will you sign this?" I'm like, "I already signed that one." It's like, "I get paid. Can you just sign it again?" It's like, "Yeah, no problem."
Oh yeah, that is a problem. That definitely is a problem. That's for sure.
But at the end of the day, getting enough signatures to be put on the ballot and foolery that may happen with that doesn't mean that when it gets to an election that there's fake voters in that election. And so the idea is that this is just a barrier to getting something on the ballot. And once it's on the ballot, I think most of us agree that we have faith in the current electoral process, the election system, that whatever the outcome of that vote is going to reflect the general desire of the populace. So it's sad to see how long it's taking for things like this to progress in states that are not progressive in terms of cannabis policy. And I'm excited that they get this on the ballot. It gets an affirmative vote. And then they can say that the will of the people in Nebraska is X, Y, and Z, and they can catch up because they're still playing catch up.
Let the record show that I do not have faith in our current electoral process or the integrity of our electoral system, but we'll keep it rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you guys see where it was either a day or two ago, Donald Trump was telling everybody to make sure you vote twice?
No, but damn it, it would work.
No.
That's your dude. Vote twice.
I mean, Daily Politics is the one that started that all with the cemetery vote, and his motto was...
Did you also see where Donald Trump told people to vote early? Remember, wait, now, which is kind of weird. Isn't that a talking point that we don't want that?
I believe in voting in early voting. That way you can see really where your vote counts as far as what part of the percentile you're in. I personally like.
Depending on the state that you're in, some states actually, after COVID, amended the vote so they're not counted until election night.
I just think
Early
Donald
votes.
Trump has percentile dysfunction, and there's no cure for that.
Oh boy, I don't know.
Are you okay, Matthew?
He's winning.
Almost went out my nose. Thank you, Yarrow. That was a good one.
He's winning in every percentage that I can see, but nonetheless.
Anyway, I love you guys.
I love
Yarrow.
you too, bro. We're going to roll right into Yarrow, who'd finally decided to roll on in because apparently he finally got his permission slip signed to be here. That's right. It is Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
He had to go grab a man pond. It's his time. It was caught off guard.
A man pond. Oh, boy.
Little man print.
I think you upset Jenny, my friend.
I mean, I've never had a man pond, but if I did, it would look like you.
It would look like me.
Oh, boy.
I don't think so. But
Without
get your pH checked if that's what it comes out looking like. Bud.
Oh,
You're
boy.
very observant. So without further ado, here's my article for Monday, September 16th, High at 9 News. Let me take you on a throwback, way back, to back in the day in the early 70s. And this is hot off the press, I might add, through a variety of news sources within the last 48 hours. Drum roll. Nixon started the war on drugs. Privately, he said pot was not particularly dangerous. Back in 1971, President Richard Nixon launched the war on drugs, a campaign that's still affecting the U.S. today. However, a newly discovered recording from March of 1973 reveals Nixon privately admitted that marijuana wasn't particularly dangerous. This recording, captured by his secret system in the White House, only recently came to light after a cannabis industry lobbyist found it while going through hours of Nixon tapes. In the recording, Nixon says, quote, "Let me say, I know nothing about marijuana. I know that it's not particularly dangerous. But on the other hand, it's the wrong signal at this time," unquote, referring to the movement to legalize marijuana. Publicly, Nixon called drug abuse public enemy number one, but in private, he questioned the harsh penalties Americans faced for marijuana-related crimes. Referring to a case where somebody received a 30-year sentence for cannabis, he said, "The penalties are ridiculous." Nixon even expressed concern over states like Texas, where people were getting 10-year sentences for marijuana offensive, calling it, quote, wrong. Despite this, he was the one who created the federal drug classification system, placing marijuana in the same category as the most dangerous substances like heroin. This decision not only fueled mass incarceration, especially among Black Americans, who are 3.6 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession, but also stifled research into its medical potential for decades. Continues to. The timing of these revelations is noteworthy, as the U.S. government is currently reconsidering marijuana's classification as a Schedule I drug. There's a proposal on the table to move it down to Schedule III, which would ease some of the restrictions surrounding its use and research. The DEA is planning a public hearing on the matter in December, because that looks like progress, following the presidential election. Interestingly, both of the major 2024 presidential candidates seem open to loosening marijuana policies, at least until you vote for them. For example, Kamala Harris has spoken out against marijuana being classified as a Schedule I drug, and Donald Trump recently acknowledged that legalizing recreational marijuana in Florida seemed inevitable. While he didn't fully endorse it, he did say, "We do not need to ruin lives and waste taxpayer dollars arresting adults with personal amounts of it on them." These comments, along with Nixon's long-buried admission, highlight how the conversation around marijuana has shifted, even among politicians once associated with tougher stances. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to know what my other pundits think and feel about these new revelations that take us back 51 years.
Well, first of all, Trump did endorse it, and so just want to just say that in regards with your article. But I mean, this is not surprising at all to me, and I'm really glad that these tapes finally did come out. I wasn't necessarily shocked, but just like it's just been more of the same, and like they know that there's no problem with this, but yet they want to act like it's
You know, it's a nuclear weapon.
It wasn't on accident. Nixon and the GOP invented the scheduling system and outlawed marijuana so they
That's
could.
true.
I say this almost every
That's
fucking
true.
episode.
That's true.
They outlawed marijuana so that they could attack the civil rights movement, the Black Panthers, free speech movement, the SDS, the Weathermen, everybody who wanted the end of the Vietnam War and were trying to attack the fascist system. The GOP with Reagan and Nixon and the Bushes, etc., have been on this forever. And I'm not excusing the Democrats. The Democrats are like fascism light. It's basically the current choice we have is want to be fisted in the ass with no lube, or would you like, like maybe a couple fingers to start and then that whole motherfucking arm still? So the lubed up arm would be the Democrats. The lube arm would be the Republicans. Definitely need a more mature and European system wherein we have multiple parties to vote for with multiple ideas so we can maybe evolve ourselves past this tribal war of red and blue. It doesn't work. But anyway, back to Nixon. He outlawed marijuana and started the DEA, and the scheduling system was continue to erode our rights and to attack Americans who are exercising their First Amendment rights, because it is not against the law to call for an end to war. It is not against the law to call for black folks and people of color to be treated equal to white European appearing people. So they needed to find a lever to use to harm and imprison these people. Other thing they did was the CIA's Dirty Tricks Committee, along with FBI's COINTELPRO, would write letters that purported to be from these different figures to each other in order to foment war between these factions and paranoia and to keep them from working together. Because what we're actually dealing with is a class struggle. And the reason that most people don't see the class struggle, besides lack of education, is because the powers that be use our minor differences, such as race, ethnicity, and maybe even political fealty, keep the truth obfuscated that 99% of us are actually brothers and sisters, to unite to ask those at the top to begin sharing more equitably.
Oh, brothers.
So would you describe your political affiliation as more of a well-lubed butt plug, Mathieu St. Germain?
I would take an occasional finger, but you got to play with my balls at the same time or it's not going to work for me.
Oh, boy.
We just got an age gate. Amazing.
I am a psychedelic anarcho-communist. What does that mean? It means that I believe in small systems. I think that we as human beings should take care of each other as we do in families and small friendship situations. Shouldn't be so afraid when those situations grow to be, instead of a few people, maybe a couple 100,000 people. There's been enough history showing that if we all just give a little bit into the middle of the pot, there's enough for everybody.
Well, okay, that makes sense. Going back to the article, though, I mean, cool that this tape came out, but a lot of fucking good it does us now, right? He already did it. He already created the damage. And so, like, this, but I said that it's not that bad. Remember when I said that? Doesn't fucking matter at all. This is just a little bit of, I don't consider it news necessarily.
It does show the hypocrisy, though, in government.
It also, the fact that it's coming out prior to the DEA completing their process around rescheduling, descheduling, I think adds some additional fact-based data points, some momentum that might provide some additional political pressure. History is certainly about going back and reevaluating what we think we know and why we think we know it. It's also relevant in an election cycle because I think up until Donald Trump, Nixon was the highest ranked Republican president for felony convictions. And so I think that it's worth noting that, while he may be called Tricky Dick, he was not Dumb Dick, and that he understood that the things that he was putting forth were deeply flawed, deeply agendized and undisclosed, and that he used it for political advantage, but that he knew what he was doing. And so, look, the guy, nobody ever said he was stupid. And so I think when we think about the history of the DEA, the history of the scheduling, the history of where cannabis currently resides federally, this is all now very relevant. And 50 years, while it seems like a long time, in the history of the world or the history of this country is not that long. And so I hope that this goes viral. I hope it continues to be something people talk about. I hope that it makes its way into the presidential campaign and the back and forth. And I hope ultimately that the DEA takes this into consideration when it measures the political wins and decides what it's going to do after that hearing in December.
Well, I think unfortunately the fact that it's coming out 50 years later or whatever, the harm is already done, and this sucks because like we have had so many people's lives who've been destroyed by someone who did something that was contrary to what admittedly their own personal beliefs are for a policy. So I don't know. I think that it's sad, and I'm sure it will become viral. But at this point, how much weight is it really gonna have?
Well, I mean, I know I've shared it with some people, and they thought that it was very, very, very impactful. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a day-to-day basis, Jenny, it has no bearing. But in terms of where this country goes and how quickly the country goes there, I think this is earth-shaking. Some of us put a little bit more emphasis on history. But hey, we'll see.
I mean, I understand, Yara. It's just like at this point, we'll see. We will see because like what makes us reschedule it, which we're still fucked, right? So unless this is going to lead to a full deschedule, then it's too little, too late.
Fair enough.
I would love to see cannabis rescheduled, and all of these folks who thought they were going to create generational wealth by pouring out all the value of this plant and our culture destroyed, crashed and dashed upon the rocks. That would be fucking hilarious.
Oh boy. And there was a story that we previously covered on Nixon, I want to say probably like a year ago or so, where he unknowingly smuggled a half a pound of weed for Louis Armstrong in a suitcase.
Yep.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Louis Armstrong was like, "Here, hold my suitcase."
Yeah.
And,
well, no, he was having a problem getting through customs, and Nixon was right there, and Nixon knew him, and he was like, "Oh, bro, you're with us, basically." Here, had his guy grab his bag, and you know what I'm saying, moved him through.
Armstrong should get a medal for that because that is so baller.
That is that it is. Well, and on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high at noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for always helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this, and thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Millie in the building today. That's right, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.